Hello and welcome to the Business Today show. I'm Udayan Mukherjee. This is the series of pre-budget specials that we started last week, where you saw Dr. Kaushik Basu, former Chief Economic Advisor, talking about the imperatives for the Finance Minister. And today we have on the show for you another very eminent economist, Dr. Montek Ahluwalia, former Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission of India. Montek, very nice to have you on the show today. And I want to begin by asking you about this K-shaped recovery, which has now become common parlance. Should the Finance Minister be making her peace with the fact that it will remain K-shaped, or do we need to do something to change the shape of that alphabet, given how badly the bottom end of the pyramid is hurting?
Well, let me first thank you for inviting me to join your show. You know, on the specific question that you asked, you're right that there's been a lot of focus on the fact that the economy is recovering. The fact that it's recovering is certainly a good thing, though it's not unexpected, because, you know, we were very badly hit by the pandemic. So having gone down probably more than most other countries, it's not surprising that we have seemingly recovered. As you say, the recovery is not uniform across all segments. Neither sectors nor, if you like, income groups. And I subscribe to the view that what you're seeing is a recovery, but it is K-shaped. The question you now ask is, should the Finance Minister worry about that? Well, you know, clearly anything that doesn't bring the benefits of a recovery to large numbers of people, especially at the lower end of the spectrum, has to be a cause of concern. But what exactly she can do about it in the short run is another issue. Because as far as the recovery is concerned, I mean, the year is almost over. So really the question is, what should she be doing in next year or in the budget for the next year? But to some extent, what should she be doing for the remaining couple of months? You know, my view on this has been always that given that we were hit by a recovery, in the short run, a worsening of the fiscal deficit compared to what was expected not be a problem. We had apparently projected a fiscal deficit of about 6.8% of GDP. That was based on, I think, an outcome projection of growth which is probably not going to be realized. So in the remaining months of the year, I personally think that rather than being too hung up on hitting that 6.8% target, she can actually afford to do a certain amount of expenditure which actually would help the economy. Now, in this list of things to be done, you know, to my mind, one of the most important really is to make up the transfer that is due to the states because of the shortfall on the GST compensation. Because, you know, there's far too much focus in our discussions on the central government fiscal deficit, whereas really from a macroeconomic point of view, the deficit that matters is the combined deficit of the center and the states. Now, the states have not been given the shortfall in the GST which they were originally promised. Many of them are therefore running very large fiscal deficits. Some of them, by the way, may not be showing the fiscal deficits because they're just delaying expenditure. And that is actually contributing to the slowdown in the economy because bills are not being paid, etc. So I think that for this year, I don't think it's that important to stick with the 6.8% that was originally targeted. If the growth rate that we are achieving is actually less than what we had originally anticipated, so you can in fact justify a somewhat bigger deficit. And probably the areas she should concentrate on, as far as the current year is concerned, is either make the transfers that are due to the states for the GST compensation. And I don't know, by the way, what has been the final position taken by the government on whether we are going to make that transfer or not. But to my mind, it was clearly promised, and therefore it's worth taking a step forward in that direction. it's a good opportunity to say, well, look, it's been a bad year. We've recovered not as much as we had expected. And so if the fiscal deficit is a little higher than 6.8%, I don't think that matters too much for the current year. Now, it's a different issue what she's going to do for the next year. And I mean, that is very directly connected with what sort of a growth expectation she has for the next year. And you know, on that, people have very different perceptions. I mean, we should not be mistaken by the fact that we have probably end up with a growth rate maybe somewhere between 2.5% current year, but that doesn't mean that's going to continue next year. So really, we need to know what is the government's own expectation of what the next year's growth rate is going to be, because the budget has to be structured around that.